Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading for May 29th. And today I'm reading Nehemiah 12 through 13 from the World English Bible. It's the last reading for this book. And we just finished Memorial Day. Well, actually, today's Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all the veterans. And Pentecost, Feast of Pentecost weekend, as important as Memorial Day, even more important. Celebration of the giving of the law of Moses and of the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, the birth of the church on the day of Pentecost. So, yeah, important weekend, long weekend, and I hope you're enjoying it. Nehemiah 12 through 13, chapter 12, verse 1. Now these are the priests and the Levites who went up with Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, Sariah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Malach, Hattush, Shechaniah, Rehum, Meremoth, Edo, Ginnathoi, Abijah, Mijamin, Maadiah, Bilgah, Shemaiah, Joyrib, Jediah, Salu, Amok, Hilkiah, Jediah. These were the chiefs of the priests and of their brothers in the days of Jeshua. Moreover, the Levites, Jeshua, Binnui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, Mattaniah, who was over the thanksgiving, he and his brothers. Also, Bakbukiah and Uno, their brothers, were close to them according to their offices. Jeshua became the father of Joachim. Joachim became the father of Eliashib. Eliashib became the father of Joiada. Joiada became the father of Jonathan, and Jonathan became the father of Jaddua. In the days of Joachim were priests, heads of fathers' households of Sariah, Mariah, Meshullam of Amariah, Jehohanan of Malluki, Jonathan of Shebaniah, Joseph of Harim, Adnah of Marioth, Helkai of Edo, Zechariah of Ginnathon, Meshullam of Abijah, Zikri of Minjamin, Moadiah, Hiltai of Bilgah, Shammua of Shemaiah, Jehonathan and Joyrib, Metanai of Jediah, Uzi of Salai, Kalai of Amok, Eber of Hilkiah, Hashabiah of Jediah, Nathanael. I'm sorry, that was kind of rough. It has funny punctuation in that one. It's hard to flow with it. Verse 22, As for the Levites in the days of Eliashib, Joiada, and Johanan, and Jaddua, there were recorded the heads of the fathers' households, also the priests, in the reign of Darius the Persian. There's Darius. The son of Levi, heads of the fathers' households, were written in the book of the Chronicles, even until the days of Johanan the son of Eliashib. The chiefs of the Levites, Hashabiah, Sherebiah, and Jeshua son of Kadmiel, with their brothers close to them, to praise and give thanks according to the commandment of David, the man of God, watch next to watch. Mattaniah, Babukiah, Obadiah, Meshullam, Talmon, Akub were gatekeepers keeping the watch of the storehouses of the gates. These were in the days of Joachim, the son of Jeshua, the son of Josadak, and in the days of Nehemiah the governor, and of Ezra the priest and scribe. At the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites out of all their places to bring them to Jerusalem to keep the dedication with gladness, both with giving thanks and with singing, with cymbals, stringed instruments, and with harps. I bet that was pretty. Don't you just wonder what that sounded like? What kind of sound did they have? What kind of music and tune and tempo and melody? What kind of beat? So interesting. The sons of the singers gathered themselves together, both out of the plain around Jerusalem and from the villages of the Netophathites, also from Beth Gilgal and out of the fields of Geba and Asmaveth, for the singers had built themselves villages around Jerusalem. The priests and the Levites purified themselves, and they purified the people and the gates and the wall. Then I brought up the princes of Judah on the wall, and appointed 2 great companies who gave thanks and went in procession. One went on the right hand on the wall toward the dung gate, and after them went Hoshea with half of the princes of Judah, and Azariah, Ezra, and Meshullam. Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, Jeremiah, and some of the priests' sons with trumpets. Zechariah the son of Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Mattaniah, the son of Micaiah, the son of Zachar, the son of Asaph, and his brothers, Shemaiah, Azarel, Mila, Milalai, Gilalai, Mai, Nathanael, Judah, Hanani, with the musical instruments of David the man of God, and Ezra the scribe was before them. By the spring gate, and straight before them, they went up by the stairs of David's city at the ascent of the wall above David's house, even to the water gate eastward. Now remember, I think, if I remember correctly from yesterday, they were gathered at the wide place by the water gate. So apparently there was like an open area there. I actually Googled it and saw some pictures, but there's more than one. So I guess they're all kind of renditions of what people think that they were. I'm not sure. Not sure we have those records. 38. The other company of those who gave thanks went to meet them, and I after them, with the half of the people on the wall, above the tower of the furnaces, even to the wide wall, and above the gate of Ephraim, and by the old gate, and the fish gate, and the tower of Hananel, and the tower of Hamiah, even to the sheep gate, and they stood still in the gate of the guard. I just had a great idea. They had so many gates, and I love all the names of the gates. I've always thought about listing them. I bet there's a list right on Google these days. But we've actually built out a garden with cinder blocks. I call them Legos, big Legos. They're so much fun. So we made some raised beds and a wall, and we're considering another wall. And in considering that wall, we've had to think about putting openings and to go in and out of. So now I'm thinking I'll name our gates. I guess you kind of have to for communication purpose anyway, right? So you know what you're talking about, but maybe I'll name them something besides the back gate or the side gate, or the front gate, which is what I've always called them. Anyway, that's random. I'll try to remember to let you know if I name my gates or what we name them when we get it finished. Verse 40. So the companies of those who gave thanks in God's house stood, and I and half the rulers with me, and the priests, Eliakim, Messiah, Miniamin, Micaiah, Elionai, Zechariah, Hananiah with trumpets, and Messiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzer, Johanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. The singers sang aloud with Jezrahiah, their overseer. They offered great sacrifices that day and rejoiced, for God had made them rejoice with great joy, and the women and the children also rejoiced, so that the joy of Jerusalem was heard even far away. So what a celebration. On that day, men were appointed over the rooms for the treasures, for the wave offerings, for the first fruits, and for the tithes, to gather into them according to the fields of the cities the portions appointed by the law for the priests and the Levites. For Judah rejoiced for the priests and for the Levites who served. Now remember, this hope and great joy that I've talked about many times is occurring here, manifesting here, because they're putting things in God's order. And here in Nehemiah, they're finishing the wall, or they finished the wall. But prior to this, and over quite a course of time, decades, I think, they began to restore the temple that had been destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. They began to restore the knowledge of the Word of God, the law of Moses, and the instructions for running and managing the temple. They're restoring the items for the temple and for worship. They're restoring the sacrifices, and they're rebuilding the walls in the cities. So they're getting reestablished. They're reestablishing their records, their inheritances that had been given to them. Each tribe had certain parts of the land given to them. They even were like checking records to make sure and confirm that you are part of those different tribes, so that you could be validated that you had a right to that inheritance. So they've been putting all this back in order over all this time. And so they have good reason to rejoice here. They have good reason. They went through a lot of challenges and trials to get here. But this hope and great joy is coming because they're putting things back in God's order. Verse 45, they performed the duty of their God and the duty of purification, and so did the singers and the gatekeepers, according to the commandment of David and Solomon his son. For in the days of David and Asaph of old, there was a chief of singers and songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. Remember, David loved music. He was a musician. All Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah gave the portions of the singers and the gatekeepers as every day required, and they set apart that which was for the Levites, and the Levites set apart that which was for the sons of Aaron, the priest. On that day they read in the book of Moses in the hearing of the people, and it was found written in it that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not enter into the assembly of God forever, because they didn't meet the children of Israel with bread and water, but hired Balaam against them to curse them. However, our God turned the curse into a blessing. It came to pass when they had heard the law that they separated all the mixed multitude from Israel. Now before this, Eliashib the priest, who was appointed over the rooms of the house of our God, began being allied to Tobiah, had prepared for him a great room where, before they laid the meal offerings, the frankincense, the vessels, and the tithes of the grain, new wine and oil, which were given by commandment of the Levites, the singers, and the gatekeepers, and the wave offerings for the priests. But in all this I was not at Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, I went to the king. After some days I asked leave of the king, and I came to Jerusalem, and understood the evil that Eliashib had done for Tobiah in preparing him a room in the courts of God's house. It grieved me severely. Therefore I threw all Tobiah's household stuff out of the room. Then I commanded that they cleansed the rooms. I brought into them the vessels of God's house with the meal offerings and the frankincense again. I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, so that the Levites and the singers who did the work had each fled to his field. Then I contended with the rulers and said, why is God's house forsaken? I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then all of Judah brought the tithe of the grain, the new wine, and the oil to the treasuries. I made treasuries over the treasuries, Shelemiah the priest, and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites, Pedaiah, and next to them was Hanan the son of Zachar, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their business was to distribute to their brothers. Remember me, my God, concerning this, and don't wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for its observances. In those days I saw some men treading wine presses on the Sabbath in Judah, bringing in sheaves and loading donkeys also with wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, and I testified against them in the day in which they sold food. Some men of Tyre also lived there, who brought in fish and all kinds of wares, and sold on the Sabbath to the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said to them, what evil is this that you do, and profane the Sabbath day? Didn't your fathers do this, and didn't our God bring all this evil on us and on this city? They're like, we're just getting it back together, and you want it to be destroyed again, right? I mean, that's why they went into exile in the first place. So it says, didn't your fathers do this, and didn't God bring all this evil on us and on this city? Yet you bring more wrath on Israel by profaning the Sabbath. It came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before Sabbath, I commanded that the doors should be shut, and commanded that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. I set some of my servants over the gates so that no burden should be brought in on the Sabbath day. So the merchants and sellers and all kinds of wares camped outside of Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them and said to them, why do you stay around the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time on, they didn't come on the Sabbath. I commanded the Levites that they should purify themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me for this also, my God, and spare me according to the greatness of your loving kindness. In those days I also saw the Jews who had married women of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, and their children spoke half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. I contended with them and cursed them, and struck certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God. See, there's nothing new under the sun, I'm telling you. You have variations of this all over the place. Anyway, he said, you shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor take their daughters for your sons or for yourselves. Didn't Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among the many nations there was no king like him, and he was loved by his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, foreign women caused even him to sin. Shall we then listen to you to do all this great evil, to trespass against our God in marrying foreign women? One of the sons of Joiada, the son of Eliashib, the high priest, was son-in-law to Sanballat, the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me. Remember then, my God, because they have defiled the priesthood and of the covenant of the priesthood and the Levites. Thus I cleansed them from all foreigners, and appointed duties for the priests and for the Levites, every one in his work, and for the wood offering at times appointed, and for the first fruits. Remember me, my God, for good. That's it for today. See you tomorrow. Bless you.